Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we finally have the brand new PNSO Spinosaurus here to take a look at. This figure has been in transit for quite some time, like every one of the PNSO figures pretty much has been so far. The Postal Service has been pretty backed up and just a little bit too busy this time of the year to really get packages to people in a timely manner, and that's pretty much exactly what has happened with every single one of my PNSO figures so far. And the Spinosaurus, again, no different whatsoever. It was kind of lost in the mail for some time, but we now finally have it here to take a look at, and you can see a really nice image of the Spinosaurus here on the front, as well as the PNSO logo. I love the coloration of this Spinosaurus. I feel like it's an extremely appealing looking coloration for the Spinosaurus. One of my favorite paint schemes, I think, on any of the newer PNSO figures. And then up here on the top, you could see another image of the Spinosaurus and its head. And then if we flip it around, just another image of the Spinosaurus. Same image that we saw on the front of the box, but this side's actually in English, so I probably should have had this side facing out, but whatever, it happens. But without further ado, let's go ahead, get this box open, and take a look at the newest version of the Spinosaurus from PNSO. So as always, we get the very cool booklet inside. You can see again that very nice image of the head sculpt there of the Spinosaurus, and then once we open this up, and we take a look at the inside of this, if I can figure out how to do it. There we go. We've got some more images yet again of the Spinosaurus, kind of like a silhouette image up there of the skeletal structure, and then some information over here on the Spinosaurus and PNSO itself. Really cool booklets, as always, but you really don't need me to tell you that. If you've been watching these PNSO reviews for quite some time, you'll know that these booklets are always included because PNSO loves to give you the best possible product continuously. And here is our Spinosaurus. And again, pretty much just like the response I've heard from everywhere, I am quite surprised to see that the figure is as small as it is, because the previous PNSO Spinosaurus was very, very large, like extremely large, and this one is just a fraction of the size of the previous Spinosaurus. But unfortunately, my previous Spinosaurus is in storage, like most of my stuff is. I actually went to my storage unit yesterday to try to get the original Spinosaurus out, and then a few other things that I wanted for some reviews and everything, but it's totally destroyed at the moment because my parents also use the storage area, so they kind of threw stuff all over the place and making it pretty much impossible to get to any of my dinosaurs at the moment. So I guess we'll just have to wait as far as that goes. But I actually do believe that this version of Spinosaurus is based off of a different specimen than the original figure was. And the specimen that they used for reference for this actually puts this at a 1/35th size scale range, so the smaller size is actually something that does make sense. But regardless, again, we're just kind of used to a larger Spinosaurus from PNSO, and we now have this much smaller version. However, I will say, looking at it here at first glance out of the packaging, this is a much nicer looking Spinosaurus than the previous offering from PNSO. I really, really love the overall appearance as far as both the sculpt and the paint on this figure. I really, really love the paint job, actually. It might be my favorite paint job I've ever seen on a Spinosaurus. But again, absolutely gorgeous looking here at first glance. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Spinosaurus, this part of the head is a little hard to get to due to the Spinosaurus having its head turned in such a sharp left position. So now the body kind of gets in the way when I try to get that side of the head close to the camera, but you can see how nicely sculpted that head sculpt is. That's really, really beautiful looking. Lots of extremely nice scale detail on the face. We might as well just go over to this side, I think, take a better look at this side, and then head back over to the previous side once we have an idea of what it looks like. But you can see again the scale detail and everything on the face of this Spinosaurus is incredible. In general, the entire skin texture looks absolutely fantastic in every area of the head sculpt of this Spinosaurus. And I love that there's actually quite a bit of color variation, as you can kind of see like this orangish brown leading up onto the face, but then you can see some alternate variations of like tannish browns. And even the upper jaw compared to the lower jaw has a slightly different tone of color. The upper jaw almost has like a very slight hint of like a greenish brown, like a greenish tan, I should say, actually. You can also see some stripes that run down here throughout the face. You can also see that the eye area is kind of darkened around it with a nice black coloration that also runs up here onto the face a little bit. The eye is painted with a yellow and given a nice black pupil. And then there's a really nice looking red crest up here on the top of the head of the Spinosaurus as well. The teeth are also painted with a nice white, and they actually look pretty darn good for the most part. You can see there's no real sloppiness as far as the actual application of the
paint here on the teeth, although mine looks like it actually has a little bit of the white up here on the top of the snout. If my camera would focus on it, it just does not want to. You see there's a little bit of white right there. I don't think that was done on purpose, but in the actual area of the teeth, for the most part, the teeth actually look to be painted pretty nicely. You can see a really nice realistic coloration on the inside of the mouth, like a pinkish coloration, and a beautiful gloss coat is added, as well as some really nice detailing inside the mouth, and you can see how nice and beautiful it looks here from this angle, kind of getting an idea of what the back of the mouth there looks like, and the jaw articulates really nicely. It actually opens pretty darn wide. And again, everything is painted and glossed beautifully. This side of the head is just so hard to get a shot of due to me kind of bumping the Spinosaurus into the camera continuously on this side. I really like that image right there. Just looking at the front of the head, you can see how nice and thin the snout is of the Spinosaurus, and then just how bulky the head and neck region is. Really cool looking for sure. But as we start to move back here into the neck, you can see again just how thick that neck looks. It's very, very thick looking, really cool looking as well. And you have some gorgeous scale detail here on the underside. I really like how the sculpt and detail on this figure just pops so well. I feel like the actual sculpt and detail is so vibrant within this figure. It's just really, really impressively sculpted, and the detail is just gorgeous the way it appears throughout the sculpt. You can see kind of like some osteoderms running back here along the side of the neck, but again, the scale detail is just off the charts, and there's a really nice dark wash that you can see in certain areas. Like, you can really pick up on it here on the underside of the neck and the throat region, and I think that as well was a great choice on the part of PNSO to include that, because it really makes all that scale detail pop in such an incredible and realistic way, and just makes the figure as a whole so much more lifelike. But again, you can see quite a bit of color variation. You can even see like some hints of green down here on the underside of the throat, some nice light grays as well, transitioning up into like a brownish coloration, then to like an off-white or a really light tan, and then to that orangish brown. And then we have that black up here that kind of stripes down and kind of designs all over the place. As we continue to move back here into the neck, you can see the skin stretching off of the neck really nicely right there. Again, due to the Spinosaurus having its head in such a sharp turn, you can really see how sharp the turn there is of the head of the Spinosaurus. You can make out the shoulder blade a little bit, just kind of like the bump of where the shoulder blade would be there protruding from the skin, and you can also see quite a few kind of scoots and osteoderms in the shoulder area, as well as leading back into the stomach region. Actually, it continues to go the entire way up onto the hip. Again, lots and lots of color variation on this figure. This may be one of the nicest painted PNSO figures that I've ever seen, and you can see how the skin is kind of stretching off of the body right there in the joint of the elbow. The elbow itself is present back here. You can also see that the Spinosaurus is kind of leaning down on its hand. Really nice smooth transition to that darker coloration down there on the hand, but the Spinosaurus is using its knuckles, it seems, to hold itself up, as you have the hand bent dramatically there, and you can also see the nails. The nails are actually extremely huge. Wow, I did not realize how big those nails are. Those are like, they look like red-eared slider nails on a, if you've ever seen that type of a turtle before, they have really long nails, and these are very reminiscent of that. Those are extremely, like, if you look at it right here, you can see how extremely long those nails are. Those are exceptionally long nails on the figure. Very interesting touch, I will say. I actually quite like that. But then coming back up here into the body, again, actually you could see a little bit alternative of a variation of brown right there in the shoulder area as well. And then moving into the stomach region, you can again see how that nice dark wash allows that detail to pop so well. The scale detail really looks great because of that. And you can also see some more really nice transitioning between colors here on the figure. And you have that really nice, like a yellowish or orangish brown right here. As we transition up into the back, again, we have some more of that very dark black leading down, and all of the paint application is really nice and naturally applied. None of it looks like paint on a figure. It's all so smooth the way it's applied. It just generally looks like this is 100% the coloration of the animal. Coming up into the sail, that sail is unbelievable. Potentially the nicest sculpt that I've ever seen on the sail of a Spinosaurus before. There's just so much incredible detailing as far as the scale detail on the sail of this Spinosaurus, and it's all beautifully painted and given a really nice dark wash to make all the detail pop. That is just about as striking, I think, as it gets for a sail on a Spinosaurus, as well as about as realistically painted, I think, as it gets. I love the light tones of color here, like this really light kind of an off-white here in the stomach region, and then it's bordered by like that yellowish coloration, and then the orange, it just continues to like transition to a darker tone of color as it reaches the edge, and then you can see like a darker brown, and then also the black, and the way the black kind of stripes down into the sail Everything is just so unbelievably striking and just gorgeous beyond belief up there in the sail area. And then it's all kind of outlined with like a very light, almost like a greenish coloration that runs along the border of the sail. Incredible job on the part of PNSO as far as the way they've painted this figure. And you can also see the hip bone right here as we move back down into the body area, and you can see the leg is stretched back really nicely. The skin is beautifully stretching off of the body right here, showing off that aspect of the figure. You can really see how nice that skin looks as far as the way it's stretching right there. Very nice musculature as well displayed within the leg. It's not overly sculpted, not overly defined, but looks about as realistic and natural, I think, as it gets. Some pretty nice creasing here in the joint of the knee. You can also see some like larger scales here at the front of the thigh area, and just generally the scale detail again continues to look incredible. There are just so many different varying sizes of scales on this Spinosaurus. It is just jaw-dropping. And then coming down into the foot, again, a really nice smooth transition as far as that black coloration into the foot. The nails don't appear to have any specific paint on them back here, aside from the coloration of the foot, that very dark coloration, but it still looks really quite nice. And then coming back up into the tail, again, you can see more of that incredible scale detail brought out wonderfully with the nice dark wash, some more creasing right here behind the thigh, and some more incredible paintwork again. As far as like the tones of color used, it looks very crocodilian as we move out here into the tail, and the way they've allowed every scale to pop so well with that nice dark wash really makes you take note of how incredible it looks. Even here on the underside, it actually looks potentially even more crocodilian down here on the underside. It's just absolutely gorgeous paintwork. It's like expertly painted, I'll put it that way. And then we move out, of course, the length of the tail. We have that very nice, very cool looking paddle-like tail that we are now accustomed to when it comes to Spinosaurus. And I think everything on this is just about as incredible as it gets. This is easily one of the, if not the best Spinosaurus figures that I have ever seen in my entire life. Looking here at the underside, it's also one of the most realistic looking Spinosaurus figures because everything just looks honestly about as lifelike as it gets. You can even see the cloaca is present back here, and it's really highly detailed as far as the way they've sculpted that out, and the scale detail and everything here on the underside, as well as just generally like the movement of the dinosaur is shown so brilliantly throughout the sculpt here on the underside of the Spinosaurus. This may be the most highly detailed PNSO figure I've ever seen, and that's really saying something because they have a lot of extremely highly detailed figures. Coming back up here to the head sculpt, again, the head sculpt looks great. Once again, we have that beautiful articulated jaw, which works perfectly. There are no issues whatsoever as far as that goes. You can see some creasing in the neck because, of course, the Spinosaurus has its head turned so far and so sharply to the left that it would be scrunching that skin up there in the neck, and that's really nicely shown in the sculpt. Again, you could take note of the very large, thick region here of the neck and throat on the underside. Again, looking very crocodilian in general as far as this Spinosaurus goes. And then moving back here into the body, again, you can see that beautiful paintwork. It all is so nicely painted and so naturally painted. It's just mind-boggling how good the paint job is on this figure. And then coming back into the body, you can see that this arm is in a much different position than the opposing arm. This one is like leaving its nails down. It's not scrunched up and crushed like you see on the hand over there where it's kind of leaning on the hand. This one is more out in the open. You can get a better idea of how large those nails are. Again, looking more like a red-eared slider, I think, or some sort of a breed of turtle than any Spinosaurus that I've ever seen before, but I really quite like it. I think it's a very unique and interesting look for the Spinosaurus. Again, the arm sculpt looks incredible. Nice smooth transition to that darker coloration down there on the hands. Beautiful scoot-like appearance down the fingers. Some more nice creasing here in the joint of the elbow, as well as some more nice creasing right there in the base of the arm where it connects to the body. You can continue to see the incredible sculpt and detail here in the stomach region of the Spinosaurus. Again, that gorgeous details brought out perfectly with that dark wash. Some more scoots and osteoderms pretty much littering the entire side of the dinosaur. Some more incredible paintwork as well, and then we lead up into the sail, and again, that sail is just absolutely breathtaking in every way. Both the sculpt and paintwork is just so top-notch on the Spinosaurus and the sail in general that you just can't help but just stand here and stare at it in awe. It's just that ridiculously good overall, and you can see so many different varying sizes of scales throughout the entire sail of the Spinosaurus. There's just so much detail that has gone into that sail, again making it probably the most highly detailed PNSO figure, but also the most highly detailed Spinosaurus that I think I've ever seen. And then coming back here, you can see kind of the skin scrunching up here due to this leg pushing into the body really beautifully. Again, the hip bone is present right here. Some more really nice paintwork on the figure. Again, probably one of the best. I'd say it's probably in the top 3 because my 3 favorite paint jobs from PNSO would be the Ceratosaurus, the Ankylosaurus, and now I think this Spinosaurus. I'm not sure which one would be leading, but those would be my 3 favorites. And this Spinosaurus has really exceeded my expectations as far as the paintwork goes. Most often you'll get a PNSO figure and it won't be quite as nice as the actual prototype was, but I feel like this one is, and it's just unbelievable in every way. And again, the leg sculpt looks really good here. You can see the really nice musculature displayed again. Beautiful kneecap present there in the front of the knee. Really nice foot sculpt here on this leg. You can also see the dew claws are present, which I did not point out earlier. You can see the skin kind of stretching off of the tail here as that leg is stepping forward, taking a really long stride, and you can really see how that skin is stretched quite beautifully right there and really elaborated again due to that dark wash. And then we move out the length of the tail, that very cool looking paddle-like tail. Very nice curve to the tail right there that you can see quite beautifully from the underside and then up above, and the sculpt and detail throughout that tail looks incredible. Again, very crocodilian. As we move out the length of the tail, you can see how each and every scale pops so beautifully with that dark wash, and all of that incredibly striking paintwork in general is just gorgeous the entire way out. And just overall, this Spinosaurus is about as unbelievably striking and beautiful as a Spinosaurus figure gets. Easily my new favorite Spinosaurus in my collection.
Again, we did state numerous times that the Spinosaurus is pretty small, so for a length, you are looking at roughly about the 9-inch range, or about 23 centimeters to the end of the tail. Again, if the head was straight and the tail was straight, they weren't curved, it would be a good bit longer, but with the curves, that is about the length. And then for a height to the top of the sail, about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our brand new PNSO Spinosaurus, and you can see, again, the much smaller size is quite significantly seen here when it comes to these figures, especially being an Attack Pack figure is very similarly sized aside from length. When it comes to the Spinosaurus is just ever so slightly larger, I think, than the Attack Pack size figure. I guess it's not really slightly, it's a little bit larger, but I would give the Spinosaurus here about a strong medium size range overall, and hopefully next to these figures you can get a good idea of that. And to give you yet another idea as far as a size comparison goes, here is the GR Toys Spinosaurus, one of the more recent Spinosaurus figures out there, and that is in comparison to the PNSO Spinosaurus. And again, you can see a very big difference in size between these two figures. Again, also showing you how much more impressive the PNSO Spinosaurus truly is than if it were a larger size, again being compacted into the smaller size and still managing to show such incredible detail and paintwork really shows overall how impressive the figure is. So this brand new 2020 PNSO Spinosaurus is quite possibly my new favorite of the newer releases from PNSO, and we have a lot of those as they have just been completely bombarding us with new figures. But this Spinosaurus, even though it's a little bit underwhelming in the size department, is beyond impressive in every other department. Again, really overtaking so many of the other PNSO figures as far as both the sculpt and paint. This thing is just next level gorgeous. The sculpt and detail on this, I think, is more impressive than most PNSO figures, which they usually always create an incredibly highly detailed sculpt, but I just feel like the detail on this is like unbelievably well done. Super vibrant detail throughout the entire figure. Nothing looks washed out at all. Generally looks like about as vibrant as you would see on a real living animal, and every ounce of movement is shown perfectly within the sculpt, and not only perfectly but very, very realistically. Again, one of the most realistic sculpts I think I've ever seen as far as portraying movement on a dinosaur. Really cool pose in general for the figure as it's just kind of walking along, it seems, and turning its head very sharply to the left. I'm not sure exactly what it's looking at or what it's doing. Maybe it's looking for a fish and trying to sneak up on something in a river or a stream. I have no idea exactly what the inspiration was for the sculpt and the positioning of the body, but it looks really good. Makes it a little hard to review the left side of the face, but still really good regardless, and an overall very appealing looking pose for the figure. And just generally, the entire appearance of the body of the Spinosaurus here looks great. I really like the fact that they have a nice, thick, bulky neck on the animal, and that beautiful paddle-like tail that we now are accustomed to on Spinosaurus looks really, really cool on this version here. The sail is unbelievably well sculpted. again, the paintwork as well in that area is just top notch, really highlighting that sail area. And then you have the use of the kind of larger nails on the hands, but looking more like a red-eared slider than what you would normally see on a Spinosaurus, which is such a unique look for this figure, making it very different than most Spinosaurus figures. And that's just another of the many aspects of the figure that I really love. You also have an articulated jaw, which is awesome, and the articulated jaw works perfectly, which is also a huge plus. And then you have the paintwork, and the paintwork is, again, definitely in my top 3 of PNSO's history as far as the actual paintwork of their figures goes. This paintwork on this Spinosaurus is unbelievably well done. It's not often that you get a figure from PNSO that the paintwork from the prototype translates so well over to the factory release figure, and although it doesn't look exactly like the prototype, I feel like what we did get here is about as appealing as it's probably ever going to get when it comes to a Spinosaurus, and the actual application is so nice and natural. Everything on this looks so realistically applied. It doesn't look like paint in any way, shape, or form, and it's probably one of the nicest painted figures as far as like the realism of the actual application of the paint that I've ever seen on a dinosaur figure. And again, the actual paint used as far as the coloration is extremely striking, extremely appealing and pleasing to the eye, and really complements Spinosaurus in every way. So as far as this Spinosaurus goes, even with the smaller size, I could not have asked for a better Spinosaurus from PNSO. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Dan's Dinosaurs, so make sure you check the description, go buy this absolutely incredible PNSO Spinosaurus, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe before you do, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.